December 20th, 2024. The Federal Reserve quietly releases its latest money supply data. There are no breaking news alerts, no urgent press conferences, no serious discussion on primetime television. But buried inside that report is one of the most important economic signals of our lifetime M2. The broadest measure of money circulating in the U.S. economy now stands at $21.2 trillion. In January 2020, before the pandemic, it was just $15.4 trillion. In less than 5 years, the United States created $5.8 trillion out of thin air. That's a 38% expansion of the entire money supply in under half a decade. To understand how extreme that is, you need historical context. In 1980, the entire U.S. money supply was roughly $1.6 trillion.
Albeit,
We didn't just print a lot of money recently. We created more than 3 times the size of the entire 1980 economy in just 5 years. And yet, despite all of this, most people believe the inflation crisis already happened. They think the worst is behind us. That belief is dangerously wrong. What we experienced in 2021, 2022, and 2023, the 9% official inflation, the 20% increases in groceries, rent, insurance, and fuel, that wasn't the real event. That was only the preview. Inflation doesn't hit all at once when money is printed. It moves through the system in waves. The first wave always hits asset prices. Stocks surged. Housing prices exploded. Anyone who already owned assets felt richer almost immediately. The second wave hits consumer prices. Food, gas, rent, utilities, healthcare, the things people can't avoid. That's the pain most households are feeling right now, but the third wave, the most destructive one, is still building. That wave crushes wages, savings, and purchasing power over many years. And this time, it's not just about the $5.8 trillion that already entered the system. It's about the tens of trillions that must be created in the future just to keep the government solvent. This is the debt inflation spiral. Once a government reaches a certain level of debt, the process becomes irreversible. The debt generates interest. The interest increases deficits. Deficits require new borrowing. Borrowing requires money creation. Money creation causes inflation. Inflation raises government costs even further, which leads to more borrowing. The cycle feeds itself. And once it starts, it never ends voluntarily. It only ends when the currency is reset and the middle class is destroyed in the process. This isn't opinion, it's arithmetic. There is no mathematical path to paying off $36 trillion in national debt. None. The numbers do not work. The only politically survivable option is inflation. Not a one-time spike, but long-term. Sustained inflation that quietly transfers wealth from savers and wage earners to asset holders and the government itself. Every major currency collapse in the last 2,000 years has followed the exact same pattern. There are no exceptions. First, a trusted currency is established, usually backed by something real like gold or silver. That trust allows trade, savings, and economic growth to flourish. This phase can last decades or even centuries. Then costs rise. Wars, welfare systems, corruption, and political promises pile up. Tax revenue can't keep up. Borrowing reaches its limits. So governments debase the currency. Less metal in the coin. More paper in circulation. Leaders insist it's temporary and harmless. At first, most people don't notice. Money still looks the same, it still spends the same. But gradually, purchasing power erodes. Eventually, debasement accelerates. Inflation rises. Confidence collapses. The middle class holding wealth in the currency is wiped out, while those closest to money creation and real assets survive and consolidate wealth. Finally, the system resets. A new currency or framework is introduced after the damage is done. Wealth has transferred from millions to thousands, and most people never fully understand what happened. Ancient Rome is a textbook example. In the 1st century, the Roman denarius was nearly pure silver. Under Emperor Nero, facing massive expenses, the silver content was quietly reduced. The coin looked identical. It circulated normally. Most Romans didn't realize anything had changed, but over the next 2 centuries, successive emperors kept reducing the silver content to fund wars and maintain power. By the 3rd century, the currency was almost worthless. Prices exploded. What once cost 100 denarii eventually cost tens of thousands. Soldiers, merchants, and small landowners were wiped out. Savings accumulated over lifetimes evaporated. Meanwhile, large landowners and political elites who held real assets became even wealthier. The currency debasement destroyed Rome's middle class long before the empire officially collapsed. Weimar Germany followed the same script at lightning speed. After World War I, Germany owed massive reparations payable in gold-backed currency. They didn't have the gold. Raising taxes or cutting spending was politically impossible, so they printed money. At first, the depreciation seemed manageable, then it accelerated. By late 1923, prices were changing by the hour. A loaf of bread that cost hundreds of marks cost billions. Middle-class families who had saved for generations were annihilated in months, but farmers with land survived. Factory owners survived. Borrowers saw their debts vanish in real terms. Inflation completed the largest wealth transfer in German history and left deep psychological scars that reshaped politics for decades. The modern version began in 1971, when the United States closed the gold window. Overnight, the dollar became pure fiat. For the first time in history, the world's reserve currency was backed by nothing but trust. That decision unlocked unlimited money creation. What followed was the inflation of the 1970s, exploding asset prices, and the beginning of permanent wealth inequality. Since then, every major financial crisis has been solved the same way: more debt and more money printing. Each cycle concentrates wealth further and weakens purchasing power for those living on wages. Today, the United States is deep into the third stage of this pattern. The national debt stands at over $36 trillion and continues to grow by nearly $2 trillion per year. Interest payments alone exceed $1 trillion annually and are rising fast. Soon, interest will consume a massive share of federal revenue. Cutting spending enough to stop this is politically impossible. Raising taxes enough would crush the economy. That leaves only one option: monetize the debt. The Federal Reserve will increasingly be forced to buy government bonds with newly created money as foreign buyers step back. This isn't a theory about the future, it's already happening. The result won't be a single dramatic collapse. It'll be something far more dangerous. Years of persistent inflation. Your salary will rise, but never fast enough. Your house price will double, but everything else will triple. Your retirement account will grow in nominal terms, but shrink in real purchasing power. On paper, you'll look richer. In reality, you'll be falling behind every year. Cash savings and bonds will be destroyed. Fixed incomes will be crushed. Younger generations will find it impossible to build wealth through wages alone. Meanwhile, asset holders, corporations with pricing power, and governments will benefit. Inflation is not an accident. It is a transfer mechanism. This is why unpayable debt is never truly repaid. It is inflated away. History has shown this outcome over and over again. Rome did it slowly. Germany did it fast. The United States is doing it in slow motion, but the acceleration is already underway. The money has been printed. The waves are still moving through the system. In the middle class, holding cash and wages is always the one that pays the price.